Hello and welcome to another new video. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're not actually going to be playing a game or anything, I just wanted to talk about something. First of all, I apologise for any background noise. Apparently everyone in my neighbourhood has decided to do their garden at the exact same time, so there you go. So as you probably already know, yesterday was May the 4th, and like a lot of people I decided to watch Rise of Skywalker. It was the second time of watching it, saw it at the cinema, and I'll be honest, I was a bit disappointed by it. But I thought, I'll give it another shot. Maybe it might be that I'll watch it a second time and I actually enjoy it. But no. No, I watched it a second time and ended up turning it off because something about it just bugged me. I don't know what it is. And I had a long think about it. So this is kind of just me ranting, basically, about Rise of Skywalker, which, yes, I know, thousands of other people have already done it. But now it's my turn. And I'll be honest, there's people that enjoy the film, and if you enjoy the film, that's great. More power to you. Like, films are art, and art is subjective, so there are going to be some people that like it, some people that don't. I'm not going to tell anyone not to like this film, but this is just the reasons why I personally don't like this film. I can understand the how of how Palpatine came back. Cloning has been a thing since A New Hope. Even just that brief mention of the Clone Wars. Then in the prequel trilogy, you actually see the clones, you actually get to see a bit of the Clone Wars, they have TV shows about it. Cloning is a thing in Star Wars. I completely get that. But it does open the interesting question of, does that mean that Jedi powers can be cloned? Because Palp has all of his. So is that saying his midichlorians, which this new trilogy is trying to avoid using that word, are they also cloned? Or is it just that he's inherently powerful and that's just how it happens? But that's a completely different story. That's not what I'm annoyed about. The thing I'm annoyed about is why Palp has come back, and the only reason is because it's no secret Last Jedi divided fans, and Disney kind of panicked about that and thought, well, we need to try and bring back some of the old shit to try and draw those people back in. Forgetting the fact that even those people who hated Last Jedi would still go and see Rise of Skywalker, even if it's just a shit on it. They would still go and watch it. They'll still be making their money. But no, they buckled under the very vocal people that kicked off. I went, right, okay, we'll give you a bunch of the old stuff. We'll throw that in. So Palp was suddenly back. And the thing is as well, I get that there's probably some canon reason for it. It's probably in a book somewhere that explains why he's come back. And to be honest, it shouldn't have to be in a book. I go to watch films because I want to enjoy that film, and the main story should be contained within that film. I mean, if it's a trilogy, fair enough. If you contain the story throughout the trilogy, that's fine. But I shouldn't have to then go and read 20 different novels, a comic book spin-off, and then watch about 4 TV shows just to understand the central story of a film. I should be able to watch that film and understand that film. And that kind of leads me on to the second thing about the film that really, really got me, especially in terms of the story. So, Rey is a Palpatine. Why? Why does everyone have to be connected in this universe? It's hard enough. I live in a small town. It's hard enough to bump into my relatives walking down to the shop. How do these people keep bumping into relatives of each other in a fucking galaxy? It makes no sense. Another thing as well with the whole Palp Rey thing is that they say that her dad was a Palpatine, and who the fuck is having sex with Palpatine? Seriously. Now, this one I think was explained in either an encyclopedia or a book or something that says that he is another clone of Palpatine, but then if that's the case, he's still the same age because the clone in this one is just Palpatine after he's fell down the shaft. So is that clone a younger Jango Fett, Boba Fett type thing, or is it just old Palp? Because either way, it doesn't make much sense. Okay, so the next one is, again, probably quite a story-heavy one. It starts off with Kylo Ren looking for the little... I don't even know what the Wayfinder. They're looking for the Wayfinder. He finds it. Brilliant. He does what he needs to do. But then, suddenly, the rebels also need to find another Wayfinder. Which, conveniently, there's only 2 of. Like, in the entire of the fucking galaxy, there's only 2 of these things. These are meant to lead to the Sith homeworld, and I get there's only ever 2 Siths, but surely make a couple of backups. So they go on this hunt to try and find this thing. They can't find it, but they find a dagger. The dagger can then show them the location of where it is, so they go there. Only problem is, they can't use the dagger because reasons. Basically, it's written in Sith and C-3PO won't translate it. So then they have to add a second step where they have to find someone who can reprogram C-3PO just so he can read this dagger, which will then lead them back to the main MacGuffin that they needed in the first place. It's just, there's nothing to this that feels natural. It just feels like there's constantly something there that is blocking the way at any time, and they have to find a new thing to get past that next obstacle. It's like a video game if you only had the cutscenes. That's basically how it feels. Like the originals, even the prequels, they had a sense of adventure. This doesn't. It just feels like a constant stop-start all the time. Like they find something and they have to stop to try and find something else. And that's it for the whole movie, basically. So the next one's the editing. And I haven't really seen many people complaining about the editing too much, but for me it was kind of a big deal. For a start, it just jumps too much. Like, when you go back and watch the originals, there were parts of them where literally nothing happened. Like, in A New Hope, there's probably about a minute or 2 where Luke's trying to find Ben, and it's just mountain shots. Like, it's about a minute of just mountain shots and desert, and that's all it is. No talking, nothing, just still shot of a couple of bits from the desert. This one has a cut, like, every 5 seconds. Like, especially in the opening, like, where they're trying to get away from the TIE fighters in the frozen planet. I didn't actually notice it the first time I watched it. It wasn't until I watched CinemaSins video that they'd done on it. But they're flying straight towards this wall, and they're saying about how thick the wall is, so they reckon they can get through it. There's a bunch of TIE fighters in front of them. The film just cuts from that to them being on the other side of the wall. Like, there's nothing to show what actually happened there. And that pretty much sums up the editing of this film. If they have a problem, they just edit it out. Like, there were 2 transports, one with Chewie on, one without. The film just edits the fact that there's a second one there out. Everyone forgets that exists. One of them takes off, Rey Force Lightnings it. It blows up. They think Chewie's dead. Not a single person ever sees or hears that other one taken off because that all gets edited out. So many of the problems in this film are down to editing. So, when I first watched it in the cinema, I thought the bit where Kylo and Rey are fighting over the transport that has Chewie in it, like the struggle between the 2 of them, the power balance, and then the fact that Rey just forced lightnings out of nowhere, I thought that was really cool. But then when I watched it back, yes, there's the whole Chewie thing that I've just mentioned, about how he's in the other pod, which kind of ruins it. There's also the look of that scene, and it doesn't look like a Star Wars film. I don't know what it is, whether it's just the special effects, whether it's just J.J. Abrams putting on his standard look that he has for films. But something feels off. It feels way too CG. Like, it just feels like it's come from a completely different movie. It feels too polished, I think. I think that might be the problem. It just feels like it's way too polished, that whole scene. And it feels overtly CGI. And like I say, I can't quite put my finger on it, but there are a few scenes like that in the film where they've, for good reason, they've gone down the CGI route because they couldn't really do stuff like having a floating spaceship. But it just looks too polished. And I know people are probably going to say about the prequel trilogies, they all looked really polished as well, and they were earlier than all of this, and I get that. Except, the way I see it is in the prequel trilogies, it was sort of like an age of decadence where people built these massive chrome ships and they done all of this crazy high-tech advanced stuff. Then when the Empire came in and wanted control over everything, they made everything very militaristic, very basic and very standard, and the Resistance didn't really have much to work with, so that's why they've all got shitty ships and things like that. And that's sort of my headcanon of why there's that divide. Whereas in this one, the ships still look shitty, but they just look like they're basically a polished turd. Like, they look like shit, like they should do if they're in a Star Wars film, but they've been polished up by CGI to look just weird. That's the only way I can describe it. I promise this video is not going to be like half an hour long. It's not just going to be me shitting on Well, actually, it is just going to be me shitting on Rise of Skywalker, I'll be honest. But another thing that really annoyed me is how much they rely on C-3PO to bring humour to the film. It just gets grating very, very quickly. It's just... I get that he had one-liners in the original trilogy and in the prequel trilogy, but this just felt like they were doubling down on that a bit too much, and it was just like every single time someone says something in the room with C-3PO, he would have some remark to come back with that wasn't even funny. It was just a remark for the sake of him being there, and that kind of grated on me. I mean, I'm not a huge C-3PO fan anyway, so that probably didn't help, but it kind of jar-jarred the whole thing for me. Like, he just spent way too much time talking. Also, as well, the fact that they left Rose on the cutting room floor was kind of annoying. The reason why I've sidelined this at the end is because the movie also did that to her. So yeah, that was me shitting all over Rise of Skywalker. I mean, there are still some good moments to it, I suppose. It's just really hard trying to think of them. I mean, the acting was good. Like, I'll give them that. Like, the cast was really good, and they worked well together. They bounced off each other quite a bit, and there were some funny lines in it. There were also some very stupid lines in it. A good example is something when I was watching the movie, the bit where the stormtroopers get launched up into the air and they're flying above them, and there's like they fly now, they fly now, they fly now sort of thing. I thought that was quite funny in the cinema. When I watched it back, it's kind of cringy because line repetition doesn't equal comedy. And also as well, Boba Fett fucking flew in the original trilogy. Like, fair enough, he flew straight into a Sarlacc pit, but he still flew. Like I say, there are some people who enjoy this film, so if you like it, that's absolutely great. Like, you do you. And like I said at the beginning of this, people will like different things. That's the whole point of movies, is that people will like things that others might necessarily not. There's probably some films that I really like that you absolutely hate, and that's fine. Like, I'm never going to tell anyone not to like this film. It's just I personally just did not like it. And I didn't think it felt like a Star Wars film. Like, even Solo felt more like a Star Wars film than this did. Like, that's the sort of level we're talking about here. Like, Solo I enjoyed to an extent. It was a fine film. It wasn't amazing, but it was fun to watch. But it felt like more Star Wars-y than this did. This just didn't feel like a Star Wars film. But yeah, I'd love to hear people's thoughts on what they thought of Rise of Skywalker. Like, however many months after it came out. Yeah, I'm late to the party with this one. I don't know if I'm going to do any more, like, this sort of thing, like vlog style stuff or not, but we might do whenever I have a topic that I want to rant about. But at the moment, this is the big one for me. So I'll leave you with that, and I'll say goodbye. So, goodbye.